You're sitting in the cockpit of the AMC Sky Dart spacecraft. This is a lunar lander game that I've created and published on Steam called Tungsten Moon is the game. Tungsten Moon. And this is actually the demo version that's available for free on Steam right now. There's a URL to the website. I started playing lunar lander games when I was a kid in the 70s. I had access to the Dartmouth College time-sharing system and BASIC, the programming language, and there were some games that were already created that were on that system. One of them was LEM, which was a lunar lander simulator, and I played the crap out of that when I was a kid. I loved that game. And ever since then, I've been really obsessed and addicted to flight simulators, aircraft simulators, spacecraft simulators, and so forth. I've written a bunch. I've written, when I was a kid in the 70s, I wrote a space shuttle simulator, but it was really simple, sort of like the lunar lander simulator in BASIC, that kind of simple. And when I was in college, I played some of the early flight simulators, like the precursors to Microsoft Flight Sim. And I've always played around with writing my own spacecraft simulators. Super obsessed with orbit simulation, orbital mathematics, numerical simulations. In fact, my first orbit numerical simulation was one that I wrote when I was a high school student, like a junior in high school, and I've been reading about orbits, and I knew that orbits were circular or they could be elliptical, but I didn't know if there were special conditions that you had to create to get an elliptical orbit. And it wasn't until I actually wrote some numerical simulations of orbits and had the output printed on a dot matrix printer, and line by line I saw the position of my satellite going around a star, and I was just flabbergasted to see that no matter what initial condition I put in, the path of the spacecraft would be an ellipse. So at a very early age, in high school, back in the 70s, I was learning about orbital mechanics. Anyway, fast forward. Every now and then, as computing power advances, I play around with writing another orbital simulator, and recently retired from my engineering job, and now I thought maybe I could write an orbital simulator where you get to be in the cockpit of the spacecraft and flying around. So that's what I've been doing for the last year or so. I created this game called Tungsten Moon. It's a small moon, 600-ish kilometers in diameter, and the model is that it's made of solid tungsten. It's the Tungsten Moon. And if you do something like that, make it that size and make it out of tungsten, then one of the properties is that the surface gravity is going to be the same as the gravity on Earth's moon. So you get to have that fun of flying around on a lunar lander. But the map of this thing, the scale of it, the places you can go, it's much smaller than the actual moon, and the orbital period is about 40 minutes, which is quite a bit shorter than the orbital period to go around the moon. So that's all kind of fun. Anyway, the reason for making this video is that I've recently released a new version of this, 1.1.0, for the demo. And right now it's in the beta channel on Steam, but it's free. Go ahead and download it. And you need a pretty decent system to run this thing. You probably can't run it on any integrated graphics driver that's out there. But you can on most fairly modern, discrete graphic card systems play Tungsten Moon. I also designed this game to work in virtual reality, so if you got a VR headset and a pretty good, decent machine, you should be able to hop right into the cockpit and fly around. So yeah, I'm just goofing around at the moment. We took off from the default landing pad setup at the North Pole of the Tungsten Moon, and I've been flying around for a while. I've actually literally lost track of where I took off from. It's a small moon, 600 kilometers diameter, but believe me, it's large enough that you quickly lose track of where you are. So what I'm going to do is press the menu button on my controller, and I'm going to go and start a new game, erase saved game. So I click on that, press proceed, and now this is the default starting position. We're near the North Pole, and if you want to know exactly where you are, there's this little FMS built into the spaceship. This is the main menu. This is something I'm working on really intensively now. My other passion is computer software, and this is actually a simulated computer that runs inside the game and is programmed using the fourth FORTH programming language, which is a throwback to the 60s, or at least the 70s, for semi-embedded systems. There's a stopwatch mode and a pad service mode. So when you're on a landing pad on the Tungsten Moon, and there are right now 20 landing pads that are available to you, you get this data readout from the pad that tells you what services are available on the pad. So on that. So the top line here actually shows us the name of the pad, 0:0, and it's shown literally on the surface of the pad too, 0:0. And its coordinates in latitude and longitude. So we're 89.9 degrees north and 161.0 degrees east. The altitude right now is 4 meters. So there's like a plane that goes around PLANE that represents sort of like sea level for this moon. And so we're pretty much on that plane. There are also the next two lines, 2 and 2. Those are directions to other landing pads that we can use to find other paths to go to. So for example, 0:1 is in a direction of 90 degrees, so a bearing of 90 degrees and a distance of 0.1 kilometers. That's right in our neighborhood, and I can line up on that. So we're going to go to 90 degrees and we're going to fly a short distance. Now down here I've got this attitude indicator which serves as a compass of sorts. So if I lift off and hover, put in alt control mode, I can yaw around to 90 degrees. And that points me at this other pad. This is 0.1 kilometers away, very close. And I'm going to control my thrust, which is directed sort of straight up through the floor. And with my stick, you can actually see the stick moving on the right here. With my stick I can control the attitude or the rotation of the spacecraft, and by, say, pushing the stick forward, I'm directing my thrust forward slightly. It's a little bit like flying a helicopter, but it takes a heck of a lot of practice to really get good at it. So here I am at pad 0:1. So gently. On the right at the top you can see my cross pointer display. That is showing me my ground relative velocity in 2 axes. Forward and backwards is one axis and left and right is the other. Alright, let's see if we can set this sucker down. Bouncing a little bit. Ugh, not too graceful. So once I settle onto the pad, my landing pad services display will update and show me that there is actually some propellant on this landing pad. So this landing pad does not generate propellant, but it's capable of storing it. And by default, this one has 1 metric ton of propellant on it. I've used some propellant to get here, so I'm going to load up a little bit more. This sort of default propellant load on the Sky Dart is 2,500 kilograms. So I'll get it up to about that. Call that good. I can also move propellant in the other direction if I do shift to pad and press this button. I'm going to offload propellant and put it onto the pad. So So it's kind of neat. You can actually pick up propellant in one place and bring it somewhere else and stockpile it if you need to do that. So let me try going back where I came from. Doing a 180 here. Oh, there it is. Also on this, I can look now at the status of the landing gear. So I haven't damaged the landing gear. All 4 pads are in good shape. They're okay. If I land a little too hard, we'll see that display showing damage on one or more of the legs. Now I also use that display on the left, the little ball, not just as a compass, but as a way of telling me whether I'm nose forward or nose backward, tipping to the left or to the right. And that helps me an awful lot in figuring out whether I am going to be accelerating in one direction or the other. Particularly useful if we're flying at night. Alright. Boom. Let's look up at our landing gear. Oh, we have damaged one of the legs. Ah, not good. I was not very careful there. So, let's see if we can take care of that. We're back at our starting landing pad, I think. Let's go back and look at the pad surfaces. Yes, we're at landing pad 0:0. That's the default landing pad. That landing pad actually has a repair service available. If I click on that, I can go back and look at the diag on the landing gear, and we can watch as the damage slowly gets repaired. It was severe, now it's just damaged, and now it's okay. Very nice. Turn off the repair. And there's a lot of fuel available at this pad, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tank up a little bit here. And we'll go on a little expedition. Maybe I'll put in a little more than the default. Maybe we'll go up to 3,000 kilograms of propellant. Make us a little sluggish, but we're going to go on a hunting trip here. I want to see if we can get to another group of pads. Okay, so up here at pad 3:0 is at a heading of 341, a distance of 26.67 kilometers. That's pretty far away. So what I want to do is lift off and we're going to go to a heading of 341. While hovering. So that's about 341. And we're going to go 26 kilometers, so it's going to be in this direction straight ahead. So what I'm going to do is tip over forward at about a 45-degree angle and hit maximum thrust for a little while. It'd be nice if I knew exactly how long to do this, but I'm really flying by the seat of my pants today. Now this entire moon is modeled. There's not much on the moon, but there are a lot of mountains and plains, and we're orbiting that planet that you see in the window, and that planet is orbiting the star that's currently in our field of view. So quite a bit of fuel left. Also gauge my angle by looking out to the side. As we're going up in altitude, we can see more and more of this planet sort of rising over the horizon. Our altitude is coming up on 2 kilometers. We have two different altitude displays right now. One is the inertial measurement unit altitude, which is computed. The other one is a radar altitude, which is limited range. So I'm going to turn off my thrust. We're now coasting. And I'm going to try to keep my eyes peeled for a landing pad somewhere up here. Challenge to try to land upon it. Oh, I see one. Right about there. There's another one. Okay. I think we're going to overshoot those. So, I'm going to tip all the way on my back. Yaw around. Instead of looking down on the surface. So the bottom of my spacecraft is down on the screen, the top is up on the screen, facing down, moving in our foot direction. And now I'm hitting the full thrust. There's the landing pad going off to the upper right, you can see there. So yeah, we've overshot that. That's okay. Go to get it back again. I am dropping like a rock. A little worried I might crash. Level out. Arrest our fall if we can. You can see our vertical speed on the right. We are about to go up again. So we still need to arrest our backwards travel. This is a very sloppy mission. I haven't been very fuel efficient. I'm really flying by the seat of my pants. Dip forward some more. I not only want to not hit the ground, I want to stop moving backwards. I want to go back to those landing pads that I just flew over. Let's see. Yeah, I'm kind of hopping up now, but I'm also turning to the place where the landing pads were. Right. I don't want to overshoot again. I need to get back to where I could see them. So you can imagine I've got an entire, I mean, this is just one small area on the surface of this moon. There's an entire planet to explore here. So, you know, the game is still in development. I've got a lot of work left to do. Different kinds of landing pads, missions, goals, all of these cool things to do. Now there are the two pads that we found earlier. There's one right there, which is higher up, and another one here a little lower down. I'm going to go for the lower down one, which is the default pad, which is the one that should have the fuel I need to refuel. There we got radar altitude showing up here. To slow our horizontal motion again. spatial sense to play this game. Alright. The ticking sound is the sound of the fuel flow gauge, which is measuring our fuel use. So, look at that. There's one of our pads. And there's another one. Okay, I'm exactly where I want to be. All I need to do is keep my wings level, so to speak. I don't have any wings. Slower descent. Yaw over to face. Got a little horizontal motion again. Tip forward towards the pad. Now this is where the cross-pointer display comes in handy. As soon as I get my horizontal speed. Okay. Arrest my leftward motion. Alright. Level out. So my leftward motion is almost zero. I've got a little forward motion. About 5 meters per second. Tip back a little bit. I want to start slowing that down. Whoops, I'm drifting to the right. So I'm playing this using a game controller, an Xbox controller. It is literally designed to be used with VR. It's a little less easy to demo that. And it's, frankly, far fewer people are going to be using VR than are using just the desktop version. So we're going to switch to the X1. Now full scale is 1 meter per second. Slowly slow. Gradually slow my forward motion. Just want to creep in over the pad here. This is pad 3:0. That's the one I was aiming for. Plenty of fuel. 900 kilograms. Drifting to the right. Come on. Still about 6 meters off the pad. Over controlling. There we go. On the deck. Look at our pad surfaces. It says we are now landing pad 3:0, which is at 85 degrees north, 0.2 degrees east. Altitude is now 298 meters above the plane. There are directions back to 0:0 and also directions to 3:1. There are 4 pads in this area, which are relatively close. The next closest pad is actually the one we see right here up the hill. It's 2 kilometers away, pretty easy to get to. This pad has propellant available, it has 8.2 metric tons, so let's start grabbing some of that. And while that's loading up, let's go take a look at our landing gear. Our landing gear is in great shape. You'll notice also that our landing gear is showing much smaller forces than they were before. This is because we don't have much fuel on board. So as we load fuel, we'll see these numbers go up. There's a little bit of asymmetry between these. These are lower than these. It might have a little residual damage on the landing gear. It's a puzzle, something to look into. to 2,500 kilograms. We also could be seeing different figures for another reason. Tell you what we'll do. Oops, I gotta go and I overshot a little bit. Let's make sure that we are fully repaired. Just a different. Let me try a little hover hop and a gentle set down. So we'll do that while we're looking at the landing gear. Yeah. Okay, so the way we landed, the gears were, the different legs were forced into awkward tension and compression. So 2 of the legs had extra compression and 2 of them had extra tension. They balanced out. But now we've lifted off gently and landed again gently. And now our landing gear are both showing 2,000 newtons force each, which is about what it should be. Hello, Lilith. So anyway, that's kind of where the game is at right now. There are, oh, let me show you. There are 5 different areas that we can go to in this demo. Eventually it'll be just the starting point, then you'll have to find your way around the entire moon. But for these early demos, you can pick the base. They say next base is the base ID, so 1:0 will go to base. So this actually, I think, is taking us back to where we just were. No, it isn't. This is 1:0, 30 degrees north, 136 west, so entirely different location. And let's try base 2. Base 2, 10 degrees south, 45 east. We're on the night side. So, darkness. And you think about how hard it was to fly to another landing pad during daylight. Imagine doing it at night. We do have a landing light, but you really have to rely on your instruments to get anywhere in the dark. Pad 3. This is the pad that we just flew to. And there's that, in the distance here, there's the pad that's up the hill. And then pad 4. Right now, this is on the dark side of the moon. You can see a little bit of the landscape here, and that's actually because we're being illuminated by the planet, which is in the sky. This is pad 4 at 10 degrees south, 80 degrees west. We're on the plane, 4 meters. And we'll go back to pad 0. This is the default starting position. And let's see, what else can I show you? Yeah, if you press the menu button on your controller or escape, you get into this simple game menu. You can use this like a pause screen, continue the flight by pressing that. You can also reload. The game saves your game automatically if and when you land on a pad that has fuel, and if your landing gear are not broken. So the idea is that you never get into a situation, you should never be in a situation where you're stuck. You always can refuel, and you have good landing gear. And actually, if you have a full load of fuel, you can literally fly anywhere on the surface of the planet on 1 tank of gas and land safely. Not easily, but you can do it. If you want to start over from scratch, there's erase save game, and then it's also quit the desktop. There is also another menu here where you can configure the inputs on your controller. So you can completely remap these controller inputs on your Xbox controller, or you can use a PS2 controller. You can assign these controls to keyboard keys. There, the defaults are shown right now. You can also, if you have a flight sim joystick or a yoke. I don't know why you'd want a yoke, but if you've got an analog joystick, you can configure that to do pretty much everything. And there we are, back on the mode. So, one thing I haven't shown you are the autopilot modes. So, since we're here, let's do that. I'm going to lift off again. And then I'm going to press hover mode. And when I'm in hover mode, this is the throttle. I don't touch that in hover mode. This is like an autopilot mode. I don't touch it. If I touch the throttle, I'm going to, well, if I try to touch the throttle, it should throw me out. No, it's not letting me do that. If I use my controller, yes, I get this warning. I have to go back into hover mode. This vernier control here lets me change the ascent and descent rate when I'm in autopilot mode. And we can see in this display here, our vertical speed in hover mode and our current altitude. So as long as we have that set, we're going to try to stay at this current altitude of 12 meters. And we can control the horizontal velocity with our joystick. And you can see over here these green diamonds telling us a commanded horizontal velocity rate. And the autopilot will attempt to match that. Now the spacecraft is actually attempting to model the inputs from a series of radar range sensors. And the radar range sensors are being used to calculate the horizontal velocity. If we fly up too high or if we bank or roll too steeply, those radar sensors will lose contact with the ground and this autopilot will not work. So it works best at lower altitudes and without aggressive bank angles. That's the basic horizontal speed mode. If I switch to prop control, now my horizontal speed target, those green diamonds have gone back to 0, and they are directly controlled by the inputs on my joystick. So as I move the joystick forward, backward, left, and right, those targets move to match. So this is a good way to do some fine adjustments on your horizontal velocity while you're hovering. If you're in X10 mode, you can press X10. Your joystick now has a much more aggressive control input. As I said, we're in some danger here of banking too steeply. The autopilot code needs a little work to avoid getting into that dangerous condition. Also does not use any inputs from the inertial measurement unit. So there's some software updates that are still pending. You notice once I get up to speed, I'm 9.5, 9 point something meters per second horizontal speed. Once I get that up to speed, I'm going to hold my joystick at 10 like this. The autopilot will take out all of the bank. So now the autopilot says wings level, so to speak, and we'll just continue to fly along at 10 meters per second. We don't need to apply any further bank. If I go look over there, you can see we're perfectly level right now. As long as we maintain level flight, we'll continue to fly at 10 meters per second horizontally. If I release my stick and command 0 meters per second, the autopilot will bank us backwards to slow our horizontal velocity. You can see that if we look out to the right. We're tipping backwards right now. You can also see it over here on the attitude indicator. Now we've reached a velocity of 0. The autopilot removes the bank, and we're hovering again. If we command with the vernier control second. We see that showing up here. It's going to maintain that 3 meters per second. And simultaneously we can put in the horizontal velocity. And go back to 0. Back at where we came from. Those are the default landing pads. There's our sun. And that's Tungsten Moon. What's coming up? Well, I have a lot of work to do in this flight management computer. This is all written in the 4th programming language, which is a little on the esoteric side. So I'm also, in addition to being a big space nerd and an aviation nerd, I'm also a big computer science nerd. And I always wanted to learn the 4th language, so I made a 4th computer that I could program and use it to control the spacecraft. So I have a lot of work to do here. My next big goal actually is to incorporate some kind of help user interface, an online tutorial, or question marks that pop up on the screen to help you figure out how to do the different things. Although this is a simple spacecraft, for a new player it is baffling what to do with it. And a lot of people who play this for the first time are thinking of it as an aircraft, or thinking of it as like a Star Wars spacecraft. It's not like that. It's more like the Apollo lunar lander. You have to think physics. You have to think about sort of like flying a helicopter, but it's not. There are no aerodynamic controls, there are no aerodynamic surfaces, there's no sense of lift that comes from motion. You can't bank and immediately go around in a circle the way you could with an airplane. It's a different sort of flying environment. So there needs to be some kind of assistance for new players to get the hang of what's going on. So those are the things upcoming: flight management software and help. Hoping to submit this for Next Fest in October on Steam. Not sure I can do that. I've already been in a Next Fest. I think I might be limited to just one. So in any case, I am hoping to release the software sometime this year in some kind of state. So sometime in 2025 we should see Tungsten Moon fully released. In the meantime, the demo is available. The demo actually is exactly the same as the development version that I'm working on. And every time I do a major update in the development version, that shows up in the demo. Usually in the beta channel first. Anybody can access the beta channel for the demo. Right now, version 1.1.0 that you're seeing here is in the beta channel in the demo. And if my tester gives me the OK, I'll promote it to the regular demo channel. Non-beta. Totally free of charge. Try it out. I'd appreciate it if you do try it and have any feedback. Drop me a note on the Discord, a note in Steam, or send me an email through the website. Let me know what you think and if you have any suggestions. Thanks so much.